Alright, welcome back. This is MDawg. I guess I should see, what episode are we on? I feel like every time I start, I'm just guessing. I feel like maybe this is
A
7, but let's
typical.
look. What was the last one? No, I'm way off. This is 9. This is 9. The last episode was the discovery of the Bream spot, which I'm very excited about, but we've got to do some things before we can... Somebody made a comment. News just in. Terrapin robs cafe with rough order. That's good stuff. Oh man, I think I did say that last time. Okay, we can read some of those comments. All right, so here we are at Winding. Let's see what's in the cafe. Easy rough order, possible gudgeon order. How we're going to be fishing here, I think. So we're going to want to go. The only thing I'm not sure about is, do we want ground bait? I feel like maybe we don't for what we're about to do. Which means we probably should get some kind of little sinkers without spending a ton. Let's see. So these are only 6 silver a piece, and I kind of like these. I do wonder if there's enough current here that might justify like the use of these little guys. It's just a little rich. Maybe we just assume that these pair sinkers are going to work. We've already got one. It costs next to nothing. The other thing I want to do is see, do we have any bark beetle larvae right now? We don't. So let's at least buy one of these bait kits. You can see what it comes with. One of the things that comes with bark beetle larvae. I think it's better to do that than to get the... By the way, we need to be digging. Better to do that than to... Oh, we need to make some more tea as well. Well, there's camp. Down where we're going to be fishing. We're going to be fairly close to camp, so that'll work out. All right, grocery store. I want to make just 10 more pieces of bread. Just on the off chance that we get another point before we start the potato grind, right? And I think this is a reasonable amount of potatoes to start off with. Between 20 potatoes and the digging we're going to do, maybe that will be enough. Maybe. All right, is there anything else that we need before we go out there? I don't think so. We're going to go to a spot where you can kind of catch a little bit of everything. I've seen some talk about this spot for people that are like going for gold baits, which if you don't know what that is, there are certain baits that you can gather as you get to be a higher level. And really, we shouldn't call them gold baits because they can be gatherable. But if you can't gather them, then the only way to get them is to purchase them with gold. There are a couple of baits in the game. Thankfully, neither one of them are that good at the moment, but there's a couple of baits that you can only get with gold, which, as you hopefully know, is real money. But once you level up bait harvesting, you can get things like crayfish, river mussel, zebra mussel, and make different types of bait fish. Obviously, with your skills, just have to catch them and turn them into bait. So all 3 of these are potentially catchable where we're going to be fishing. But I want to fish with a variety of baits. And one of the ones I want to use out here is bark beetle larvae. There's a couple of spots here at Winding that would be nice to sort of test with this same setup. I'm starting here just because I know it's been active and hopefully will give us just such a range of different results. Might be fun to see. It's not going to be a big silver earner, most likely, unless we get lucky on cafe orders. But it'll do okay, and it'll show an interesting little spot here. Mostly, what we're going to be doing right now is working on trying to level up our bait harvesting as quickly as we can, and do a little crafting and all that. because the whole goal here is to get to, and we want to be fishing, I think it's right down here. I think it's 120, 121 actually. I need to mark down some of these spots. Yeah, so we want to be fishing right here. We're going to cast it out about 10 meters. And like I said, for now, I think we're going to go no ground bait. And we've got 3.2. We want to go, I'm going to go, actually, I think I want to try 20 for red worms because we don't have that many red worms. So we'll put the slightly bigger hook with red worms. But in general here, I think you want to use really small hooks. 24s even, most likely. The other two baits we want to use are worms, and then, like I mentioned, the bark beetle larva, which we need to open up our bait box to get to those bark beetle larvae. So your bait kit comes with a bunch of baits. All these 4 baits are good. The worms not so much, but it's the only way to get bark beetle larvae currently at a reasonable price without having to buy just a ton of them. All right, do we want to go 24 or 22 on the bark beetle larva? Like, that's the question, right? I kind of want to go a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if 24 is actually right for this spot for any of the baits. Let's start like this and just see how it goes. All right, so we have bark beetle larva on. Yeah, we don't want friction break very high, actually. And everything is out. So hopefully we'll start catching something. But we need to start crafting. We need to start crafting. So we want to start fire. We need to make some more tea, right? Just so we can keep digging. Oh, I should have thought of this. I need to give credit to somebody who pointed out something that I didn't realize. All right, so first fish on red worms is in fact a crayfish. So this is kind of, you know, it's not that exciting on this account, but if I was on my main account, this would be great. We could turn this into crayfish tail, which is a really good bait to catch fish like sturgeon on. Really good bait. So let's see what we're catching here on tiny hooks, though. Yeah, gudgeon. So instead of 24, let's try 20. Wait, let's try 22. Probably catch the same species, but maybe we'll get a slightly bigger variety. Yeah, and these little fish just are not going to set off those bells constantly. We're going to have to check those rods. All right, 18.8, looking good. How much more tea do we have? We've still got some. It's a good thing to do while we're digging before we start making bread and potatoes. See if we can dig again. Nope. Do we need more tea? So far red worms really catching some gold bait. Here's another one. River mussel. At least it's a marker. But again, none of these are worth much silver. The primary reason you would catch these would be to turn them into bait to catch other fish. Alright, so it looks like, once again, worm is catching something. Oh, a little rough. I think we just need 2 little rough like that for a 10 silver cafe order. And I think that bark beetle larva has its first fish on. Let's see what this came up with. Nace. Yeah, we're just getting all kinds of species here. This is what I was expecting. What it looked like from what people were reporting was that just a huge variety here. So if redworm got yet another... Oh, it didn't. It got a perch. New ability, Paternoster. So we can now do Paternoster. I don't think we want to do it now, but next time we use ground bait, we'll try to remember to switch to Paternoster. I'm not sure that I want to keep using redworm in this spot. I think I'm going to switch over. We could try maggots or casters, but I think worms. Oh shoot! Do you know? Did you see what we just did? We just disassembled the whole thing. Clicked on the wrong button. 20 worm go. Because there's other places here at Wine. Oops! It doesn't have a clip on it either. There's other places at Winding where the redworms might do a little better, might catch a little better return. And since we have so few redworms, let's just take them off here. Little Nace again. So that was on bark beetle larva. And then the other two are on worm. So there's another rough. Very nice. Just temporarily, let's switch this to maggots just to see what it does. Maggots and casters can both be good. So now we're getting on the perch in the middle of the night. Kind of weird. Okay. Ooh, no points. That is no fun. So Gravy had talked me into the fact that I might be underselling the value of hot cocoa. And one thing that I did not remember about hot cocoa, and if I had remembered it, I probably would have been more positive about it, is that coffee requires a different tool, right, than the tea. Hot cocoa you can make with the tea kettle. So without the upfront purchase of coffee, a seive or whatever, which you would do eventually want to get, but it's a little tough at low level to get too many of these things, right? So without a purchase of one of those, you can actually still make hot cocoa, which gives you something else to stack on top of the tea. So we might pick up some cocoa powder and condensed milk. Now it is a little pricey, but at least just to make a few, it might just be worth it. Okay, so let's wait. While we're waiting on the energy, let's make some bread. Let's just see if we can get lucky on one more point by bread. Yes. I believe that we can do it. I think we have enough potatoes. We're going to get there. It's another one. This one's a marker. I love it. We're at 25.1%. Feeder fishing. These little bitty fish could just be sitting here. So this is the first fish we've actually caught on maggots. Is that a rough as well? Yeah. So maggots working also. And let's see if the bark beetle larva. Nope, nothing new from bark beetle larva. Dig when you can. No point. That's big time. We're at 19%. I think we're high enough now that we're not going to even get points every time we make potatoes. It's going to be a struggle, but hopefully we're on such a roll. Hopefully this is going to be just fine. And we did use all of our tea, correct? Yeah. rough. We must be in the lucky spot here. We've gotten up to 19.4 just on bread. I'm so glad we got more bread. So much cheaper than, you know, making 500 potatoes that we just don't need at this point. Yeah, I think maggots are actually doing really well. The bite rate has been terrific. Actually, what's been the slowest are the bark beetle larvae, right? Worms has been good too. Worms probably catching the widest variety of things other than red worms. Red worms is the ticket if you want to get the gold baits, highest percentage of gold baits, but what did bark beetle come up with? Yeah, it's really hitting these nace, and finally we got a marker one, which is cool. I like the little nace. We've gotten a pretty high percentage of nace on the bark beetle. Every one has been on bark beetle, by the way. All right, we're out of bread, so let's dig one more time, then we transition to potatoes, see if we can get there. We're trying to get to 20% for pearl barley. This has ended up being a decent little place for us. It's good to have little spots like this near camp when you're kind of doing what we're doing, which is a combination of crafting and leveling up bait harvesting. At least you're catching some fish. We're at 19.5. Let's see what bark beetle larva got. Rough this time? Yep. Wow. Nice little rough farm here. Probably, there's a gudgeon again. Probably the smaller the hook size you use, the more you increase your percentage of rough you would catch here, especially if you're just using worm. Red worm too is potentially, but again, you're just going to get some other stuff on red worm, which may or may not be exciting. All right, let's see how potatoes are looking. This is what I was a little concerned about. Goodness. We are at 19.5. The last few percentage points can be tough, but come on now. Let's get it. I do wonder if this spot will like greatly slow down during the day. You wouldn't think so. You think you'd still catch like random stuff, but you know the rough won't be as active. But I would think things like gudgeon and those types of fish would actually pick up during the day some. Okay, come on, big dig here. Shoot. Maybe we need to get some more bread. Goodness. It's all RNG, but we have been unlucky here recently. All right, there we go. 19.6. Let's hit a 0.2 here. 19.7. The old Donnet's rough. Well, maggots, nonetheless. That's another reason to have red worms in, especially this time of day. If you hit a nice Donnet's rough, like that's really nice silver XP. Okay, let's go check the prices on the cocoa and condensed milk. Might also double check that rough order, make sure we don't miss it. We want to make sure we don't get under 150 silver so we can at least get one kit if possible before. We also want to be able to make a little bit of the pearl barley, so I think all you need for that is pearl barley. It's a pretty cheap one to make. Alright, so there's 13 silver for 2 fish that wouldn't have been worth anything. Very nice. And you know, possible. It's possible out there on the gudgeon. This is probably worth doing the cafe order. Let's make sure. It's worth 1 silver, so yeah, the order is definitely worth it. Okay. So we're going to check. First of all, let's check the price of the coffee pot. I think it's a little bit more than we're going to be willing to spend right now. It's not too bad. $44.90. Now let's look at the we need condensed milk, which again is a little pricey. We could at least make like maybe 3 at a time. Here's the cocoa powder. So this should make 10 portions, right? So we'll get 2 of those. And 3 of those. Let's do a little bit. I think the other thing we need to think about is how many more potatoes do we think we'll need? I still don't think I'll need more. I think we'll make it 19.8. Oh, there we go. We got it. We got it. Okay, sorry about that. Why don't we go ahead and get some pearl barley? We can make some while we're out there. So we'll get 10 of them. And besides that, we're good. Let's just go get our fish. And we might move to a different spot. So I think we should finish making the potatoes we have. Because you never know, we might get another lucky point or two. But we also don't mind, we'll still be digging some, but we don't mind just making a ton of pearl barley, to be completely honest. I mean, pearl barley is a bait that off and on you will use forever. So it's one of those baits. Oatmeal will make some, but it's not as big a deal as pearl barley. We probably want to make 100 to 200 oatmeal and just as many pearl barley as we need to. I didn't even check the what we need for oatmeal. It's probably not too expensive either. Yeah, we'll have to test that to see which type of milks count. The cheap milk might be fine on that one. So yeah, we'll do that when we get back to town here. But the good news is, and I don't know if we'll get to this episode, but next episode we should be able to go back to that bream spot at Mosquito, see if it's still active, and try to aggressively go after the bream with the pearl barley. A true bream bait. Look at this nace. That is a nice fish. I want to check and see what that nace is worth. The only reason why I'm throwing the rods back in for now is because we're going to do a little bit more crafting at the fire, but then we're going to move to a different spot here at Winding and test a different spot for a bit. But while we're here, we need to go ahead and use the fire. Now that's scary. We don't want a big eyed on these setups, but we're using a small enough rig that hopefully we're okay. Alright, the fire is still active, so let's go ahead and do this. So we'll make hot cocoa. Cocoa powder, we've got plenty. We've only got that many condensed milk, so we'll make a couple thermoses of it. I think ideally you might want to make some more tea first. You just want to get points towards cooking as long as you can on tea, because you'll want so much tea in the big picture. But we only did 3 of them, so that works. Nothing else we're going to craft at the fire, so we can kind of move whenever. Again, this spot might be great during the day. Might be worth staying here, but I do want to test at least one more spot while we're here, because I think next episode we will most likely be hanging out at Mosquito again for those bream. Although it might be worth coming back here during the daytime. We'll see. $20.1. Yeah, hopefully I'll remember. I want to see what that nace is worth. I think the larger size nace start to add up a little bit. If there's no gudgeon at this spot, we're kind of giving up on that, but that's okay. Okay, just got to decide what size hooks we want to use here. We're going to start off with red worm again. We'll still do 10-meter clip. All right. So we've got redworm and bark beetle. Maybe just for a control line, let's have worm on as well. The intel that I had was that bark beetle and redworm were the way to go here, though. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and finish off our potato cubes. $20.5. So how many potato cubes do we end up with? 641. And they, you know, it's not anytime soon because you need at least starter carp gear for it, realistically. But oh, there's a gudgeon. But they will eventually be, those potatoes will be very useful once you can target carp a little bit at Berg and Bear. Just really good baits. Okay, so we're still catching Nace. And that was on worm. Let's see what bark beetle larva's getting. Something big? Oh yeah, I guess the scary thing about bark beetle larva, well, I don't know. Let's see what this is. I was gonna say, I was kind of thinking of maggots, I think. Just chub a lot of times will go for maggots. I don't know if that's the case for bark beetle larva. Just a slow, steady pull, isn't it? Guess we could go to 24 hook, try to avoid this. Well, it got worn out pretty quick. I guess it's just a little bream, isn't it? Huh. Interesting. 20.7. Yeah, I'm going to think about it a little bit. I had thought that the next point would go into harvesting baits again. It would help a little bit, just like on increasing the number of red worms we get. I'm not sure that the payoff is enough at this point to justify putting another point there, though. I'm just not confident in that. So we may end up going back to the two main things that we're putting points in, which is fishing with a feeder rod and the spinning reel for now. But we can start making pearl barley anytime. I don't think we make any more bread, any more potato cubes. So other than digging, it's just pearl barley at this point. Then we'll make a couple batches of oatmeal, I guess, just in case we want to test it somewhere. But mostly we'll just be doing pearl barley, I think. Huh. We're catching way too many bream during the day here. Now at night, that could be interesting. Daytime, that kind of ruins it. Sort of surprised that's what we're catching. It's not what I was expecting here. This high percentage of bream, but... So how much pearl barley have we made so far? 310. Keep it coming. We're still at 222, so we've done well. We've leveled up to pearl barley without having to put too many resources towards it. And we're close enough to town that let's just run and make a couple things of oatmeal. Then we'll come hopefully catch a couple more fish, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's find the oatmeal. Hercules oatmeal. We're just going to do 3. I mean, we may end up needing to make more oatmeal towards the end of this range of harvesting bait leveling up, but I'm assuming pasteurized milk is the cheapest, right? It's definitely cheaper than condensed or powdered. So I think pasteurized will work with the oatmeal, but let's double check that. Yeah. So that made 31 pieces. We'll get a couple more things of pasteurized milk. I don't think we want to make any more oatmeal until we get much higher in the percentage points, because technically, if you look at harvesting baits, oatmeal is higher than pearl barley. So I assume, although it could be incorrectly, that slightly better chance of leveling on this than pearl barley. So like the first, we probably want to get to, what are we trying to get till 25? We probably want to get to 24 point something on pearl barley and digging, because mostly we want lots of pearl barley. And then we maybe push for the finish line with 10 oatmeals or something. We'll see how it goes though. All right, so let's go get our fish. So hopefully we've got a couple fish on. And see how much silver we actually made. And we'll try to look at that in some detail to see if we can figure out which species is worth catching at this level. And there's a lot more we could do here at Winding. One of the things I'd like to do that I think would go really well with like these kind of spots is actually get a spinning set up and do some spinning with just 2 feeders out. And even if you're not catching a ton of fish on spinning, you're kind of supplementing it with the occasional decent fish on your feeder rods. And then if you do get a nice chub or perch or asp or whatever here, plus I think it would just be fun to get some of those early level spinning experiences with some of the inexpensive spinner baits and all that. We can test some things out. That could be pretty cool. So I guess we're going to try to balance. If that bream spot's really going off, we're going to want to do some bream fishing, still some rough stuff, but maybe we'll start getting a little bit of time in doing a little spin fishing as well, if possible. So we did get one more marker bream. Yeah, let's go see. The good thing is we already made some silver back just on cafe orders. We're right at 200 silver. I think the last thing we'll do in this episode is go buy a feeder upgrade too. When we get 2 of the basic feeder kits, then I think I will seriously consider like saving for a reasonable like low level spinner setup. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. We'll see. So targeting bream here in that spot might be possible. The bream were really coming out even during the day. It's not worth waiting on that gudgeon order. I mean, it's 14 silver, but you just don't know. And actually, sometimes gudgeon are easier on float, so I guess we wanted to target it. That's what we would do. So let's look at price. Yeah, you see this nace over 5 silver. So you're occasionally getting decent nace off of bark beetle larva down in that first spot we were at. So that seems like it's pretty interesting. Of course, bream are always good. The largest sizes of rough add up for sure. So not bad. I mean, that's 37 more silver. We're about to spend 150 on it on our first feeder rod setup. 149. Really like the Kama Comforts for a low level feeder rod. The Lacertitudes, just enough power to go after the bream. Unfortunately, we're not going to have, we won't exactly have the leader that we would want to use, fluorocarbon leader, but we'll do some testing to see which is the best way to go. All right, so there is our first feeder rod kit. So you do have to unpack it. And now we can no longer return it, which we're okay with. And let's go ahead and break this one down. And that will now become our number 1 spot. So if we do want to use a leader, we do have this 3.2 leader. It just loses a lot of strength, right? Instead of 4.8 or 4 strength, we're getting 3.2 to target the bream. I think ideally we'd want like 8 to 10 size hook, but we may just have to start with 6, which should also be fine. We go back to the feeder cages. This is a little bigger setup. We'll use 30 on that. We're getting a little more strength, a little more pull. Test is from 20 grams, so it makes sense to use the 30 gram. And then the other thing we need to do, so if we think the bream are biting on pearl barley, is there a sort of fake ground bait that we can make? We could try a semolina base. So this is what I think you should always do, at least if you're making up a ground bait because you're not high enough level to use the real stuff. Look at what comes in the bream mix, the actual bream ground bait. Now we're not high enough level to use a lot of this stuff. We can use millet porridge, so we might as well include that. We can't do pearl barley, but semolina is kind of similar, so maybe we try a semolina base. In the past, I feel like the cracker base has worked the best, but I think we should try it again. I don't know how much testing I've really done. So, but in terms of the additives, maggots and millet porridge, let's see what we can use in terms of additives. We know we're going to do semolina, so let's get one of those. And then let's go to additives. So we definitely want millet porridge, right? We'll get 3 of those just because we need them. Corn, I don't think that makes sense. Peas, we can't use it, but I don't think that would have made sense either. Bloodworm, no. Maggots, oh, we can use maggots. And maggots is in the real bream stuff, right? So we want to use maggots. If you wanted to add another ingredient, is there anything you would add? I just don't think we can use many other additives right now, so probably not. We'd probably just stick to that, again, as just as close as we can get to the real thing. Which, just as a reminder, real thing has anise oil as an attractant, which we can't use. Pearl barley as a base, which we can't use. So we'll go with bream fake. And we're going to try the semolina first with millet porridge and maggots. And I'm going to go sunflower oil. I think caramel is just a little too weird for our fake bream mix. So we're going to try this. Only 6 out of 10 quality. But I want to try it before we make multiple stacks. Because again, the one thing I'm nervous about is if the cracker base will just work better. It might not, but so that's going to be our setup. That's going to be our let's go target bream setup, right? And then we'll have to just decide, like, are we going to go for bream on 2 rods and just deal with being underpowered, and then maybe rough on the 3rd, kind of what we've done in the past. I don't know, we'll just have to see. But we're down to 81 silver, which isn't too bad. If we can have a decent night with bream, get a couple rough orders, we get that second feeder, in one episode. And then we're saving for a spinning setup. I've had people give me some different ideas on what they like to use for early level spinning. Some of them very inexpensive options, some of them a little more expensive. I think the harder decision is if you look at spinning rods, it's which rod to go with. Because really what you want is something that has a low test. But then this load capacity is only 2.7. Now this one has a 4 test, but it's only 2.8. It's just tough at low levels. So maybe you have to just accept the fact that you're going to be outside of the test range. You go with this one maybe, the Dynamic S70. Test is 10, so we're not going to be able to cast really light spinner baits very far. So we'll have to get creative with that. I guess you don't have to cast them super far at winding, but once you get to Belaya, you're going to wish you had a little bit more casting distance. But load capacity 5.9, which, that kind of means maybe we should just look at what's the kit start with? Probably that same thing. So it's probably just cheaper to get the kit, use a Lacerti. We can then use that Lacerti on a feeder rod when we're not spin fishing. So maybe this is the answer. After we get our second feeder, we'll just try a universal spinning kit instead of getting too creative with it. Because if this is the rod we're going to end up with anyway, the Lacerti strength just makes sense. And then we can test and see, like, okay, how bad is it Like, let's say you get a, what works really good at, certainly at Belaya at least, is like the Achilles, little ultralight size Achilles. They only weigh 4 grams. So how far can I cast a 4-gram Aquila with a rod that has a test starting at 10? It's not going to be very far, but is it far enough? Same with the spikers. These are really good, but the ones that tend to be the best, at least for a lot of the fish we're going to be going after, would be like these guys, but they weigh 3.5 grams. Now, the other thing you do is you test the next big up size in spiker, the number 4, right? Well, maybe the 12 gram will work pretty good too. And I'm just not sure. We'll just have to do some testing. Same with the Aquila. I mean, you get a 7-gram Aquila. Might be fine. So, yeah, just a lot of stuff to look at. I'm always curious at this thing. Now, we can only use the spinner baits at first. So, 49 silver. A little bit pricey for what you're getting here on the spinner baits. But eventually you unlock spoons. And then eventually wobblers and soft baits. But this is kind of a fun little kit just to quickly be able to test different things out. All right, that's where we'll leave it. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. My hope is that we're going to get some more information about how good this bream spot's going to be now that we have some pearl barley and a little bit stronger feeder. So we'll do that next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.